The Great Wall cut across the horizon like a jagged spine of stone, dividing the world into two halves. Li Wei stood on the high ramparts as the first light of dawn bled over the peaks. He pressed his fingers into the deep weathered grooves of the granite, feeling the history of the structure beneath his touch. The air was thin and bit at his skin. He tightened his grip on the spear, the metal shaft biting into his palm with a cold weight. He was alone with the wind until the heavy thud of boots broke the rhythm of his breathing. The commander stepped onto the ledge. The commander slammed a hand against the stone, the sound sharp enough to echo down the line. He gestured toward the northern mist. "Keep your eyes on the fog, boy," the commander barked, his voice raspy. Li Wei nodded, his jaw set. The duty was simple, the stakes were absolute, and the horizon remained stubbornly empty. He shifted his weight and waited. The morning air grew heavy, pressing against his chest like a physical weight. Li Wei blinked, expecting the usual chorus of mountain birds to fill the silence, but the trees below were mute. Not a single wing beat, not a single chirp. The world had gone hollow. He leaned forward, his spear held horizontally across his chest, and felt it first in the soles of his boots. A low, guttural hum vibrated through the granite floor, a rhythmic pulsing that rattled the loose pebbles at his feet. He looked at the commander, but the older man had gone still, his hand hovering over the hilt of his blade. Eyes narrowed into slits. Li Wei knelt, pressing his palm flat against the stone to trace the source of the tremor. It was not the wind. It was not the shifting of the mountain. He stood up, his heart hammering against his ribs, and squinted into the gray expanse of the northern brush. A shadow, darker than the deepest night, rippled through the low-lying scrub. He gripped his spear, the metal now slick with his own sweat. Whatever was moving below was not waiting for the sun to rise. It was already here. The sun dipped below the peaks, and the sky curdled into a bruised, sickly purple. The light died, leaving the ramparts in a twilight that felt like a held breath. Then, the silence shattered. It began as a rhythmic, metallic rasping, the sound of thousands of claws dragging against the vertical granite face. Li Wei stepped to the edge, his spear leveled and looked down. The base of the wall was no longer stone. It was a shifting, pale mass. Hundreds of elongated, gaunt figures surged out of the mist. They did not climb like men. They moved like spiders, limbs splayed, fingers digging into the smallest fissures of the rock. They ascended with a terrifying fluid speed, ignoring gravity. Li Wei tried to shout a warning, but a piercing, high-pitched screech erupted from the darkness below, drowning his voice. The sound vibrated in his teeth. He watched as the first of the pale shapes crested the parapet, its movements jerky and unnatural. The wall was being swallowed. The creatures swarmed over the edge, their pale limbs blurring as they surged forward. There was no hesitation, no tactical formation, only an endless, hungry tide rising from the abyss. Li Wei braced his feet, the stone beneath him trembling under the sheer weight of the swarm. The siege had arrived, and the night was no longer empty. Chaos erupted as the first wave surged onto the platform. Li Wei swung his spear in a wide, desperate arc, the tip catching a pale figure square in the chest. Upon impact, the creature did not bleed. It hissed and dissolved into a cloud of thick, acrid black smoke that stung his eyes. He did not stop to watch it vanish. He pivoted, driving the butt of his spear into another lunging shape, but the wall was already lost to the swarm. Torches were knocked from their brackets, spilling fire onto the wooden watchtowers. Flames licked upward, casting jagged, dancing shadows across the carnage. A sudden, wet thud drew his attention. The commander lay sprawled near the edge, his body pinned by unseen talons that had struck from the blind side. Li Wei lunged forward, his boots skidding on the stone, which was now slick with blood. He grabbed the commander by the shoulders, hauling him backward as the creatures closed in. The stone beneath them felt unstable, vibrating with the force of the assault. Li Wei ignored the screeching at his back, focusing entirely on the weight of the man he was pulling toward the inner stairwell. Every step was a struggle against the encroaching tide of pale limbs and the suffocating heat of the spreading fire. The sun climbed over the horizon, illuminating the ruin. The wall was a jagged, blackened spine, scarred by the night's fire and the frantic struggle. Li Wei stood alone among the cooling embers, his hands trembling as he wiped the grit from the stone ramparts. He leaned against a fractured section of the parapet, his fingers catching on a loose, uneven slab of granite. He pried at the edge, the mortar crumbling into dust under his pressure. Beneath the stone sat a hollowed-out cavity. He reached inside, pulling out a roll of material that felt cold and stiff, like cured leather. It was dragonhide, etched with intricate, shifting lines that glowed faintly. He unrolled the scroll, his eyes tracing a map that led far beyond the known borders of the Empire, pointing toward a mountain pass, shrouded in legend. The realization hit him with the weight of a physical blow. This was not a random invasion, but a calculated strike from a source that had remained hidden for centuries. He tucked the scroll into his belt, gathered a small, hardened squad, and began the descent toward the northern side, moving toward the origin of the nightmare. They stepped off the edge of the known world and into the northern mist. The landscape here defied the logic of the Empire. Trees stood like twisted, calcified monuments, their branches reaching out like frozen claws against the gray sky. Li Wei led the way, his boots crunching on the brittle, ash-covered soil. As they pushed deeper, the air grew thick and stagnant. The squad halted when the ground beneath their feet began to shift. It was not an earthquake, but a rhythmic, heavy thudding that traveled through the soles of their boots, pulsing like a slow, dying heartbeat. Li Wei knelt, pressing his palm to the dirt, feeling the vibration resonate through his arm. The trees around them seemed to lean inward, their petrified bark slick with a dark, viscous sap. Every movement felt heavy, as if the very atmosphere were trying to push them back. They navigated through the dense, silent thicket until the trees parted to reveal a massive, jagged opening in the mountainside. A cold, unnatural draft pulled from the dark interior. Li Wei stepped into the cavern, his eyes adjusting to the gloom. In the center of the chamber sat a colossal entity, its form hunched upon a throne constructed from bleached, interlocking bones. The creature remained motionless, a mountain of shadow in the dark. Beside him, a soldier stumbled on the uneven floor. His sword slipped from his grip, the metal ringing against the stone with the force of a bell. The sound echoed, bouncing off the cavern walls and dying in the stillness. The entity shifted, its eyes snapped open, glowing with the intensity of dying embers. It rose, a towering mass of ancient malice, and let out a roar that vibrated in Li Wei's very marrow. The ceiling groaned. Dust and stone rained down as the foundation of the mountain began to fracture. Li Wei shouted for the squad to move, but the ground beneath them buckled. They turned and sprinted, boots sliding on the shifting debris. Behind them, the cavern entrance collapsed, sealing the path. They tore through the petrified woods, branches snapping against their limbs as the earth continued to heave and tear apart. The forest was dissolving, the ground falling away into a dark void as they ran for their lives. They reached the base of the wall just as the first wave of the horde crested the northern ridge. The sky turned a violent, burning orange as fire rained down, illuminating the chaos. Li Wei scrambled up the stone stairs, his lungs burning with every breath. He reached the highest point of the gate, looking down at the mass of pale, elongated figures swarming the masonry. The colossal beast emerged from the smoke, its massive form dwarfing the ramparts. It lunged, talons tearing through the stone. He grabbed a heavy barrel of black powder, shoved it into the path of the creature, and fumbled for his torch. Li Wei slammed the torch into the powder. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a roar that eclipsed the sound of the siege. The shockwave slammed into the beast, throwing it into the dark void. Li Wei stood alone, the air thick with acrid smoke. The smoke cleared slowly, drifting away on a cold northern breeze. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the occasional slide of loose rubble settling against the base of the wall. Li Wei remained at the gate, his chest heaving as he stared into the abyss. Below, the landscape was a graveyard of broken stone and cooling ash. As the minutes passed, the sky began to shift. The bruised purple of the night faded, replaced by a steady, creeping gold. The sun climbed higher, painting the jagged granite in warm, deceptive light. Li Wei rested his hand on the hilt of his sword, his knuckles white against the metal. He scanned the horizon. The wind died down. The air grew perfectly, unnaturally calm. He let out a long, shuddering breath. Then, it started. A faint, rhythmic thumping began to vibrate through the stone beneath his boots. Li Wei stiffened, his gaze snapping back to the northern horizon. The mist began to stir. He gripped his sword tighter, his eyes wide as the fog thickened, revealing the first dark, elongated shapes.